I've been married to my wife for almost 9 years. Together for 11. No kids, a dog we both pretend we like equally, we don't. A mortgage that feels like a third party in the relationship. From the outside, we were that annoying, solid couple. Same routines, same friends, same jokes recycled until they weren't funny anymore. I honestly thought we were fine. Not movie perfect, but real life fine. Comfortable. Predictable. Safe. The signs didn't show up all at once. They never do. It was little stuff at first, her being weirdly snappy over nothing, rolling her eyes when I asked basic questions, suddenly guarding her phone like it contained state secrets. She started saying things like, "Why are you so insecure?" when I hadn't accused her of anything. Which, in hindsight, is not subtle. She also developed this new personality where everything I did annoyed her. The way I chewed. The way I breathed. The way I existed in the same room. If I asked how her day was, she'd sigh like I'd just ruined her life. If I didn't ask, I was emotionally unavailable. I couldn't win, and I kept telling myself it was stress. Work, burnout, whatever. I wanted a reasonable explanation because the alternative felt insane. There was also this sudden obsession with privacy. She changed her phone password after years of not caring. Started taking calls in the car. Smiling at texts and then instantly wiping her face clean when I walked in. I clocked it. I just didn't want to believe it meant what it obviously meant. Anyway, that's the setup. That's the calm before everything blew up way faster than I was prepared for. Here's where my gut started screaming and my brain kept hitting snooze. About 2 weeks after the vibe shift, she announced she was working late a lot. Like, a lot. New project, new boss, lots of pressure. Her words, not mine. She'd come home smelling different. Not bad. Just unfamiliar. Like some cologne that wasn't mine, mixed with her perfume, like she hadn't quite committed to either scent. I noticed. I said nothing. File that under things I will regret later. Then there was the gym thing. She suddenly needed to go at 9:30 p.m. Not before dinner. Not after work. No, prime cheating hours. She bought new workout clothes, shaved more often, and started complaining about how undesirable she felt while simultaneously rejecting me every time I tried to initiate anything. That messes with your head, by the way. You start wondering if you're disgusting. Or invisible. Or both. One night, she left her Apple Watch on the kitchen counter while she showered. It buzzed. I wasn't even snooping, honestly. It just lit up while I was grabbing a glass of water. A message preview popped up. A guy's name I didn't recognize. Something like, "Still thinking about earlier." That little emoji did more damage than any paragraph ever could. My heart started pounding so hard I thought I might throw up. I stared at the watch like it might explode. Then, because I am apparently a masochist, I waited. I didn't confront her. I didn't say a word. I just stood there in my own kitchen feeling like the floor had tilted 5 degrees to the left. When she came out of the shower, towel wrapped around her like nothing in the world was wrong, she picked up the watch, glanced at it, and froze for half a second. Half. A blink. But I saw it. She looked at me and said, "What?" I said, "Nothing." That was the moment I knew something was seriously wrong. And also the moment I decided to pretend I didn't know because I wanted proof. Real proof. The kind you can't be gaslit out of. Spoiler, she gave me plenty. I went full FBI mode after that. Not proud of it, but also not apologizing. The next few days were a blur of pretending everything was normal while my insides were doing parkour. I laughed at her jokes. I nodded when she complained about work. I even cooked dinner one night like some deranged sitcom husband while quietly losing my mind. Meanwhile, she kept lying with this casual confidence that honestly impressed me in a horrifying way. She said she was going to a team happy hour on Thursday. New people, bonding, blah blah corporate nonsense. She dressed up way more than usual. Like heels. Hair done. Makeup done. I joked, wow, who are you trying to impress? She snapped back, God, not everything is about you. Cool, cool, cool. She left around 7. At 8:30, curiosity won. I checked our shared location. She'd forgotten to turn it off. She was not at a bar. She was at an apartment complex across town. My stomach dropped so hard I had to sit down. I told myself maybe it was a coworker's place. Maybe they were pre-gaming. Maybe I was being paranoid. So I did the dumbest, smartest thing I've ever done. I got in my car. Halfway there, she texted me, having a drink, might be late. I laughed. Like, actually laughed. Out loud. It sounded unhinged. When I pulled into the complex, I didn't even know what I was looking for, until I saw her car. Parked crooked. Like she'd rushed. Like she didn't care. I didn't go up. I didn't knock. I just sat there gripping the steering wheel, watching the building like an idiot in a bad movie. 10 minutes later, another car pulled in. Guy got out. Tall. Confident walk. Didn't look married. He used a key. That was it. That was the moment something inside me cracked clean in half. I drove home shaking, adrenaline buzzing through me, and when she finally stumbled in after midnight, smiling, flushed, acting like everything was fine, I realized something else. She wasn't just cheating. She thought I was stupid. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a little. She crawled into bed like nothing happened, smelling like that same unfamiliar cologne, and was snoring within minutes. I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the last few months like a deranged highlight reel. Every eye roll. Every, you're being dramatic. Every time she made me feel like I was asking for too much just by wanting basic affection. By morning, I had two things, bloodshot eyes and a plan. I called in sick to work for the first time in years. My hands were shaking so badly I spilled coffee all over the counter and just left it there. I needed answers, and I needed them before she could spin another web of bullshit. When she woke up, she was cheerful. Cheerful. She kissed my cheek and said, "Morning, babe," like she hadn't detonated our marriage 12 hours earlier. That almost hurt worse than the cheating itself. I asked, as calmly as I could manage, "How was happy hour?" She didn't miss a beat. Good. Loud. Kinda boring, honestly. Lie number 1 of the day. Which bar did you end up at? I asked, pretending to scroll on my phone. She shrugged. I don't remember. Someplace downtown. Lie number 2. Sloppier. I looked up at her and said, "Funny. Because your car was at an apartment complex across town." There it was. That split-second pause again. The one where her brain clearly scrambled for a new script. She immediately went on the offensive. Wow. So now you're tracking me? That's creepy. Classic. Deflect, accuse, reverse victim roles. I told her I saw the messages. I told her about the watch. I told her I went there. I didn't yell. I didn't insult her. I just laid it out, flat and ugly. She crossed her arms, rolled her eyes and said, "You're blowing this way out of proportion." That's when I knew this wasn't going to be a confession scene. This was going to be a war of lies. I asked her, point blank, "Are you sleeping with him?" She scoffed. Actually scoffed. Like I'd accused her of stealing the moon. Oh my God, no. Jesus. You're being insane. Then came the trickle-truthing Olympics. First it was, "He's just a co-worker." Then, "Okay, fine, we flirted a little, but that's it." Then, "I may have gone over there, but nothing happened." Each sentence contradicted the last, but she said them with this weird confidence, like if she sounded annoyed enough, reality would just fall in line. I asked why she lied about where she was. She said she didn't want to deal with my insecurity. I asked why she changed her passwords. She said she needed space. I asked who the guy was. She said his name, then immediately added, "But he doesn't matter." That one almost made me lose it. Because apparently I mattered so little that she could rewrite our entire marriage in real time and expect me to just nod along. At some point, I did raise my voice. Not screaming, just louder. I said, "I watched you go into his building. I saw him use a key." My hands were shaking again, like my body was trying to escape without me. She rolled her eyes and said, "You're imagining things." That sentence will live rent-free in my head forever. When I told her I knew she was lying, she flipped instantly. Tears. Loud, dramatic sobs. Suddenly she was overwhelmed. She felt trapped. She didn't know who she was anymore. Somehow, within 5 minutes, I was apologizing for coming at her too hard. That's the gaslighting part people talk about. It's subtle. You don't realize it's happening until you're standing there thinking, wait, how did I end up comforting the person who just blew up my life? Eventually she stormed out, slammed the door, and texted me from the driveway. "I need space. Don't blow up my phone." So I sat alone in our kitchen, staring at cold coffee and a marriage that was very clearly already over, whether she admitted it yet or not. The house felt wrong without her. Too quiet. Like it knew something I didn't want to say out loud yet. I replayed the conversation over and over, picking it apart like maybe I'd missed a clue where this all made sense. Spoiler. It didn't. What did make sense was the rage slowly replacing the shock. Not explosive rage. Cold, focused anger. The kind that makes you start connecting dots you were too generous to connect before. Around noon, my phone buzzed. A text from her. "I'm at my sister's. I just need time to think. Please don't do anything stupid." That last line pissed me off more than it should have. As if I was the unpredictable one here. I decided to do something I'd never done in our entire relationship. I went through our shared iPad. She'd forgotten it was still logged into everything. Messages. Emails. Instagram DMs. A whole parallel life. Just sitting there. No passwords. No warnings. Just proof. So much proof. There were weeks of messages with him. Inside jokes. Complaints about me. Screenshots of conversations I'd had with her, forwarded to him with commentary like, "See what I have to deal with?" That one hit hard. I'd never felt smaller. Then I saw the photos. Nothing explicit, but intimate. His arm around her waist. Her head on his shoulder. A selfie in his bathroom mirror. The timestamp matched the happy hour night. My hands went numb. My chest felt hollow, like someone had scooped something out and forgot to put anything back. The worst part. She sounded happy. Light. Playful. The version of her I hadn't seen in months, maybe years, was alive and well. She'd just given it to someone else. That's when the sadness finally showed up. Heavy. Crushing. The kind that makes you sit on the floor because standing feels like too much effort. I didn't cry right away. I just sat there thinking, how long was I the joke? I didn't confront her right away after that. I needed to breathe. Or scream. Or punch a wall. I chose a shower, because I'm apparently very emotionally repressed. The water was scalding, and I just stood there letting it hit my face, trying to feel something that wasn't this mix of humiliation and grief. That's when it finally hit me, not just that she cheated, but that she'd been rewriting our story while I was still living in the old version. I thought we were struggling together. Turns out, I was struggling alone. She texted again around 3 p.m. "Can we talk later? I don't want this to turn into something it's not." That sentence almost broke me. Something it's not. Like this was a misunderstanding. Like I hadn't just seen her digital love letters to another man. When she came back that evening, she acted like she was bracing for a hurricane. Arms crossed, jaw set, already defensive. I told her I'd seen the iPad. Her face went white for a split second before she masked it with irritation. "So you violated my privacy," she said. No apology. No denial. Just anger. I asked her how long. She said, "It's not about time." I asked her if she loved him. She said, "I don't know." I asked her if she loved me. She didn't answer right away. That pause. That silence. Louder than anything else that night. Then she tried to spin it. Said she'd been unhappy for years. Said I was distant. Said she felt emotionally neglected. All things she'd never clearly communicated, now conveniently weaponized. According to her, the affair didn't happen to our marriage, it was a symptom of it. A reaction. Almost a favor. I realized then that she wasn't sorry she cheated. She was sorry she got caught. That night went off the rails fast. I asked her to leave. Not dramatically. Not yelling. Just, "I need you to go somewhere else tonight." She laughed. Actually laughed. Said, "This is my house too." Which, sure. Legally correct. Emotionally nuclear. So I grabbed my keys instead. Said I was going for a drive. She followed me to the door, suddenly calm, suddenly reasonable, telling me not to do anything rash. I remember thinking how wild it was that she only sounded concerned when she thought she might lose control of the situation. I didn't make it far. I pulled into a grocery store parking lot and just sat there shaking, forehead on the steering wheel, breathing like I'd just run a marathon. That's when my phone rang. Her name lit up the screen. I shouldn't have answered. I did. She was crying now. Real tears? Performance? Hard to tell. She said she didn't mean for things to get this far. She said she felt confused. She said she needed me to understand how hard this was for her. At one point she actually said, "I'm not the villain here." Something in me snapped, not loudly, not explosively. It was quieter than that. Like a switch flipping. I told her I'd seen the messages where she made fun of me. I quoted one back to her verbatim. There was a long pause. Then she said, "That was taken out of context." Of course it was. When I got back home, she was packing a bag. Not apologetic. Angry. Slamming drawers. Muttering about how unfair this all was. She told me she was going to stay with him, just for the night, because she needed clarity. That was the moment the denial finally died. She walked out carrying a duffel bag I'd given her years ago, turned at the door, and said, "I hope you don't make this harder than it needs to be." Then she left. I locked the door behind her and slid down against it, finally crying so hard my chest hurt. Because no matter how prepared you think you are, there's nothing quite like realizing your spouse chose someone else, and didn't even hesitate. The next morning was brutal in a quiet, humiliating way. I woke up alone in our bed, my side untouched, her pillow still smelling like her shampoo, and for half a second I forgot everything. Then my phone lit up with a notification from our doorbell camera. Motion detected. Timestamp, 1:17 a.m. I opened it. There she was. Coming back to grab something she forgot. Laughing. Whispering. Him just off camera, but I could hear his voice. Comfortable. Like he'd been there before. Because, obviously, he had. I didn't even feel anger right then. Just this deep, hollow embarrassment. Like I'd been made the fool in front of an audience I never agreed to perform for. She texted later that morning like we were coordinating groceries. "I'll swing by later to get more clothes. Please don't make it awkward." That sentence sent me spiraling. Don't make it awkward. As if this was a mildly inconvenient breakup between roommates, not the implosion of an 11-year relationship. I replied, "I won't be home." Which was a lie. I just didn't want to see her yet. She came anyway. I heard her before I saw her. Keys jangling, cabinets opening, the familiar rhythm of her moving through the house like she still belonged there. I stayed in the bedroom, door closed, heart pounding like a coward's drum. She didn't knock. She never knocked anymore. She stood in the hallway and said, casually, "We need to talk logistics at some point." Logistics. Like our marriage was a shipping issue. I said nothing. She sighed dramatically and muttered, "This is why things didn't work." And that was the moment I realized something important. She was already rewriting the ending, and in her version, I was the problem. By day 3, the adrenaline wore off and left nothing but exhaustion and this constant low-grade ache in my chest. Like I was carrying around a bruise no one else could see. She started texting more. Not apologies, don't get it twisted. Updates. Demands. Corrections to the narrative. I never said I was leaving you for him. You're making me look bad by telling people. We were basically separated already. That last one was wild. We had eaten dinner together 4 nights earlier. But sure, basically separated. I finally snapped and replied, "Stop rewriting history." She responded within seconds, "Stop playing the victim." That did it. I called my brother. I hadn't told anyone yet because I was still embarrassed, like this was a personal failure I needed to solve quietly. The second I said, "She's cheating on me," out loud, my voice cracked in half. Saying it made it real in a way screenshots never could. He didn't say, "I told you so." He didn't ask what I did wrong. He just said, "Come stay with me if you need to." I almost cried again, because that's what support is supposed to sound like. When she came by again that night, unannounced, obviously, I told her I was done talking unless it was about separation. She smirked. Actually smirked. Said, "You're being dramatic. You'll calm down." I told her I'd contacted a lawyer. Her face changed instantly. No more smirk. No more attitude. Just panic. "Why would you do that?" she asked, like I'd betrayed her. I realized then that she never thought there would be consequences. She thought I'd sulk, beg, maybe try to win her back. The idea that I might choose myself? That hadn't occurred to her at all. And for the first time since this started, I felt something close to power. Everything escalated after I said the word lawyer. Like I'd kicked a hornet's nest and suddenly she remembered how to care, just in the most manipulative way possible. She swung hard in the opposite direction. The bitchy attitude vanished overnight. Now she was sad. Regretful. Soft-voiced. She texted things like, "I never meant to hurt you," and, "I don't know how things got so out of control." Which is impressive, considering she had a calendar full of lies and a spare toothbrush at another man's place. She asked if we could just talk, really talk. Against my better judgment, I agreed, but only in public. Coffee shop. Daytime. Neutral ground. I didn't trust her not to flip the script again. She showed up late. Of course. Sat down and immediately started crying, loudly enough that people looked over. I hated that part, how she could turn on tears like a faucet. She told me she felt lost. That she was spiraling. That the affair wasn't even that serious. She said it was just physical, like that was supposed to make it better. Then, no warning, she blamed me again. Said I stopped trying. Said I took her for granted. Said I didn't fight for her. I reminded her that I'd asked, multiple times, if something was wrong. That she'd told me I was imagining things. She shrugged and said, "I didn't feel safe telling you the truth." That sentence made my coffee taste like ash. I asked if she was still seeing him. She hesitated, just long enough to answer the question without technically answering it. "I need space to figure things out." That was my answer. I stood up, left cash on the table, and told her this conversation was over. She followed me outside, suddenly angry again, snapping that I was throwing everything away. I turned around and said calmly, "You did that. I'm just acknowledging it." Walking away felt unreal. Like I was stepping out of my own life and watching someone else take the wheel. But for the first time in weeks, I didn't look back. The fallout was messy. There's no cinematic clarity after a moment like that, just paperwork, insomnia, and a weird amount of quiet. I moved into my brother's spare room for a bit. Twin bed. Boxes everywhere. I lived off frozen meals and caffeine and the kind of scrolling you do when you're trying to avoid your own thoughts. Nights were the worst. My brain would replay everything on a loop, like if I analyzed it hard enough I'd find the exact moment where I could have stopped it. Spoiler, you don't. She, meanwhile, oscillated between rage and nostalgia. One day she'd text, "I can't believe you'd abandon me when I'm struggling." The next, "Do you remember our first apartment? I miss us." Whiplash doesn't even cover it. I stopped responding unless it was about logistics. She hated that. She tried to bait me, sent old photos, inside jokes, even a random, "I still love you," at 1:42 a.m. I didn't reply to that either. Not because it didn't hurt. Because it hurt too much. The lawyer stuff became real fast. Accounts. Assets. Dates. Seeing our life reduced to bullet points was surreal. This is what 8 years of marriage looks like on paper, apparently. A list. One night, she showed up at my brother's place unannounced. Again. Crying. Angry. Saying she never thought it would end like this. I finally said the thing I'd been holding back, "You never thought about the ending at all." She went quiet. Then cold. Called me cruel. Said I'd changed. Maybe I had. Or maybe I just stopped letting her decide who I was allowed to be. Acceptance doesn't arrive with a drumroll. It sneaks in while you're doing something painfully ordinary. For me, it was folding laundry at my brother's place. Socks that weren't hers. Towels that didn't smell like our old detergent. I realized I hadn't checked her social media in days. That felt big. Like a tiny victory no one was around to clap for. She tried one last big move after that. A Hail Mary. Texted me asking if we could try counseling, before making anything permanent. I asked if she'd ended things with him. She didn't answer the question. That was it. That was the moment the door finally shut in my head. Not slammed, closed, locked. I told her no. Not angrily. Not sarcastically. Just no. I said I was moving forward with the separation and that all communication should go through lawyers unless it was urgent. She replied with a long paragraph about how heartless I was, how I was punishing her for making a mistake, how real love means forgiveness. Funny how forgiveness is always demanded by the person who did the damage. After that, I blocked her number. The silence was terrifying at first. Then it was peaceful. Then, unexpectedly, it was freeing. I started sleeping again. Eating real meals. Laughing at dumb stuff without immediately feeling guilty. I wasn't okay. But I was no longer drowning. And that felt like progress. The practical stuff came next. The unsexy, unavoidable grind of ending a life you thought was permanent. We sold the house. Or, technically, started the process. Walking through it one last time felt like touring a museum exhibit of my own bad decisions. Here's the couch where we watched the same 3 shows on repeat. Here's the kitchen where I learned she could lie to my face without blinking. Fun memories. She tried to negotiate outside the lawyers, sent me messages through mutual friends, like we were middle schoolers passing notes. Said she wanted to keep things amicable. Said she hoped we could still be friends someday. I shut that down hard. You don't get to detonate my life and then ask for a souvenir version of me. I signed the separation papers on a Tuesday afternoon. No dramatic music. Just a pen, a stack of documents, and a weird sense of calm I didn't expect. I thought I'd feel hollow or furious or devastated all over again. Instead, I felt done. Like my body finally understood what my brain had been chasing for weeks. That night, I went out with my brother and a couple friends. Nothing wild. Burgers and beer. At some point, someone made a stupid joke and I laughed, like, really laughed, and it caught me off guard. I realized I wasn't thinking about what she was doing, or who she was with, or whether she regretted it. I was just there, present. Still standing. And for the first time since this all started, the future didn't feel like a punishment. It felt like a blank page. It's been a while now. Long enough that the sharp edges have dulled, even if the scar is still there when I press on it. I don't hate her. That surprised me. I thought I would, thought I should. What I feel instead is a kind of distant sadness, like remembering a friend you lost touch with because they became someone you didn't recognize anymore. The woman I married exists in my memory, but the person who lied to me, mocked me, and walked out without hesitation? That's someone else. And I don't chase ghosts anymore. What did I learn? A few things, actually. That trust isn't built on grand gestures, but on small, consistent honesty. That being the understanding one can quietly turn into self-erasure if you're not careful. And that if someone keeps telling you you're imagining things, it's probably because they're afraid of being seen clearly. If you're reading this because you're in something similar, trust your gut. Document reality. Don't let someone convince you that your pain is an inconvenience. And don't mistake endurance for love. Love doesn't require you to disappear to survive it. I'm okay now. Not magically healed. Not some reborn monk of emotional wisdom. Just, okay. And that's more than I thought I'd get back when this all started. Thanks for reading. If nothing else, I hope this helps someone feel a little less crazy.